All right, we're going to be going live here in just a second.
All right.
At least I hope so. If everything is working
So
the way
everything does the way
yeah,
it's
exactly,
told
man.
to do.
That's
right.
exactly right. Hey,
Yeah.
Jack Brayboy is in the Square Media Studios. Jack, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. You know, we've been friends for quite some time in the business together, and I wanted you to come on board to at least talk about some of your experiences as it relates to entrepreneurship and owning a business.
Sure. Glad to be here down in the palatial estate of Rutherford Media Group
Right.
in Gastonia, North Carolina.
I know.
It all
Yeah.
works, brother.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It does.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, terrific.
We were talking about I need to see. I can't even cut that out. But that's the thing with live TV. But we were talking about really location, and I told you why I had to come to Gastonia
Right.
because of the issue with cost.
Sure.
And you had mentioned where you are. So talk to me a little bit more about where you are and the guy that owns that spot and what he's doing.
Right. The name of and it's basically it's a co-working community, and it's called Hygge, which is spelled Hyggge.
Okay.
And it's like Danish for like feeling good and harmony, and it's it's one of those kind of things.
Right, I
And
got you.
it's an excellent premise where you have access to the building, and there's different membership levels. So
Okay.
for a basic membership, you get access to the building, and you get basically, you've got a address that you can use as a business address. You get access to the conference rooms,
Sure.
and things like that. There's another level membership where which a lot of entrepreneurs, when they get started, they really don't have a place to go. They're kind of working out of their own office or out of the basement, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So this gets you out of the house, which for me, of course, in our business, and even in any business, you have to have access to people.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have an opportunity to bring in people, to sit down, have conversations, to make sales pitches, to do
Sure.
whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's not it's more cost efficient certainly to do it at home, but for me it was worth the money to have a location. And I just don't work well in the house because it's always like, man, I could cut the grass, or I could go over here and straighten up over here, or I need to make my bed, and
Right.
I haven't done it, but yet I still need to go into the office and get work done.
Yeah.
So it just made perfect sense for me. And Hygge it started out with one location, and now the owner Garrett Tichy has branched out to like 4 different locations. So
In Charlotte?
in Charlotte, yes,
Right.
and everything is primarily on the west side, which I think for a couple of reasons he sees that as an underdeveloped area,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also probably cost effective because there's not as much development on the west side of Charlotte. So
Sure.
so we're talking the first one is over in Third Ward. We're literally within a stone's throw of Bank of America Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's also bridged out to Remount and Wilkinson, Camp North End, which is a whole nother, big
It
time
is,
development
yeah,
that's
it
going
is.
on there.
Yep.
And he's also off of Tuckasegee, near Freedom Drive.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is targeted to that particular area, and is given folks. And for me, I'm like the OG. I'm like the old dude in the
Right,
building. I'm
right.
surrounded by a lot of young people in flip flops and T-shirts
Yep.
who are brilliant. Who from the jump, they never decided they were going to go work for somebody. They were going
Right.
to work for themselves.
Sure.
I wish I had kind of figured that out a long time ago.
Well, it's funny. You know what you know when you know it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think a lot of us are in the mindset, maybe we were the mindset that certain things happen at a certain time, and that's just not. It should not be the case.
Well, I think when we grew up, at least I know for me, it was always go to college, get a job.
Right.
Go to college, get a job.
Right.
That was it. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur really was until I became one.
Yep. Right.
I had to look it up. I didn't know how to spell it.
Sure.
That kind of thing. So and I encourage young people today, if they have the ability, if they have something that they can latch onto, and they've got the wherewithal, do it. You don't have to go work for somebody.
Right.
You know,
Right.
or at least have that that option in your mind.
Right.
Yes, it is easy because you got to pay the bills, and you have to make a living. And certainly working for somebody at least gives you some kind of comfort. Whatever you do, if you do it well, that paycheck's going to be there
Sure.
on the 1st and the 15th, or
Oh, yeah.
whenever it comes along. And that's one of the sacrifices that you make as an entrepreneur. You may or may not have a steady paycheck. And that's a tough pill to swallow. Now,
Yeah.
when you're younger, it might be a little bit easier, but once you get older,
Right.
you got to maybe have a family,
Have
you've got more responsibilities.
Yeah.
Then you've got to say, okay, what am I going to do here?
Right.
But
right.
the whole entrepreneurship thing is something that I think people should, early on, if you're young, you should at least have that as an option. Should consider that.
Right.
If you've got the right chemistry in terms of the mesh between your idea and your own work ethic.
Well, let me ask you this. It's funny you say that, because what do you think about the idea of some universities offering a degree in entrepreneurship? Do you think do you think that'll help them or no?
I think at that point in your life, if you as many options as you have, if you can look at it and say, okay, well, I can either do this or this, I find it would be interesting, and I never thought about it like that, to major in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But if the curriculum is such that I'm sure they teach you business and how to work with money and
Right.
how to do marketing and all those kinds of things, go for it. But you just have to understand it. Most entrepreneurs, it takes a while for
Yeah.
it to kick in, and more people fail than succeed.
That's true.
And they have to really understand that.
And it's funny, Jack, a lot of times people they don't understand either that failure is a part of, well, one, life, but it's a part of owning a business.
Absolutely.
I think for anybody who's never failed, something's wrong, or
Right.
you're lying.
Right.
So I failed many times, and it's helped me to go off in other areas to look at things very, very differently. Had things never failed, I would still be doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
So, from your perspective, what's the upside and the downside of entrepreneurship or owning a business?
Well, the upside clearly is you can manage your own time. If you're the owner, and right now I'm all I got.
Right.
So, but the downside is I'm all I got.
Yeah.
Because if for me as a video producer, doing what I do, if the camera doesn't come out the bag, I'm not making any money.
Right.
There's no steady paycheck. So I'm always having to seek new clients, but you also have to do the work. So once you've got the client, you've got the project, then you've got to do the work. So while I'm doing the work,
Right.
I'm not actively seeking clients.
Yep.
So literally, if somebody said, "Okay, Jack, you can hire somebody," well, what if your first hire in your business?
That's a
What
good
would it
question.
be?
Yeah.
It would be a salesperson. It wouldn't be a production person. Because first of all, I can find, there's so many of us
Right.
out there. There are 1,000 people out there doing what we do.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But they're all looking for work too. Most of them are. Or, they would love to have the option to turn down an offer for a job. So I can find somebody to help me on the production side.
Sure.
The harder thing is I need to put butts in the seats.
Yeah.
I need to get people in line so I have X amount of projects, a month that, I know are going to generate X amount of income.
Sure.
And then, then I've got a cycle. Then it's like, okay, I can take on more projects, which means then I have to hire either subcontract or actually hire people to come into, what is Brayboy Communications and have a full-time job. That would be shoot, a great problem to have.
So you kind of skirted it, but what are some of the downsides of owning your own?
The downside is if you don't have enough business, you don't get a steady paycheck. And as far as things like insurance, health insurance, all that sort of stuff, luckily for me, I have a wife who has a good job and I'm on her insurance. And that's one of the things you have to think about.
Right.
As if you're all you got, then part of what you bring home is also going to have to go towards, just simple things like that,
Yeah.
like health insurance. That's one of the things you're going to have to factor in if
Right.
you're out there on your own. Because if you're on your own, and you don't have, as I said, luckily for me, a wife who has a job that I can get carried on her insurance, I don't know where I'd be.
Right.
Because
right.
I really got to hustle.
Right.
Just to get insurance every month.
Yeah.
Much less make money.
Right. Right. Right.
Because at the end of the day, once you paid, all the, your mortgage, your rent, whatever the case may be, gas, food. I mean, this is all part of being an entrepreneur.
It is.
You still have to make a living,
Yep.
much less make a profit beyond that.
Yeah.
So all those factors. So that the downside is not having a steady paycheck.
So let me ask you this: Do you? I know you're a one-person
Yes.
company, just like me. But I mean, so you have to go out there and get the business yourself.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Do you think that although the city and the county, they have these initiatives that are supposed to help minority businesses, do you think they really do that?
I think they try hard, and I think for some of us who have really gone through, and I'm one who I have not gone through all of the process that they require, which I understand why they require them, because they just don't want to help folks who are just literally looking for a handout.
Right.
They want to see that you put into work. They want to see your financials. They want to see everything.
Oh, you mean the certification process?
Yeah, the certification process.
Yeah.
But I think they have, at least in my experience, they seem to have put a number of things in place, particularly for minority businesses, because they know they have to do that. They have to, at least on the surface, act, because small business drives, there are more people, and you folks don't really realize that, but the majority of the businesses in this country are small businesses.
True.
They employ the most amount of people. Everybody thinks, well, if you think of Bank of America and Duke and all these
Right.
major corporations, that's a fraction of what's really out there in
really
terms of
is.
the employment scenario.
Yeah.
So government entities have to provide as much support as they can. They can't write a check for everybody, but they at least have to put you in a position. I know, like say the chamber and whatnot, a lot of these folks have, a lot of these groups have, their access to capital events where they give you the opportunity in a setting to get in front of people
Right.
who may be able to help you financially or help you with a marketing plan or a business plan, those kinds of things. And I think by and large, they do a pretty good job at that.
That's not been my experience.
Okay. Okay.
And because I've gone through the certification process over and over and over again.
Right.
And I've not gotten the support that I thought I should have gotten.
Interesting.
Good example, I'll get certified, of course, and one of the big companies was B of A.
Right.
And I tried for years to get on with B of A in whatever capacity.
Right.
And it just never panned out.
Right.
And my argument they said, well, you need to reach somebody in purchasing. I said, okay, fine. I would talk with people in purchasing. It just never happened.
Right.
And said, I brought up the scenario to them, people in purchasing and in the C-suite. I said, look, you've had this one company on your payroll for many, many years. And for some strange reason, they keep getting the bid over
Right.
and over.
Right.
Of course, they said, well, we're not sure what that is or who that person is. I said, I'm telling you who the company is.
Right. I'm
So
telling you.
can you not at least, quote unquote, give me a piece of that?
Right. Right.
Of course, it never happened.
Right.
Same thing happened to me when I went to CRVA. I was face to face with the president of CRVA. I can't think of his name right now. I
Right.
said, hey, this is who I am. This is my
Right.
company. This is what we do. And he said, we're not married to the company that is here,
Right.
and which is
I know what you're talking about.
PSAV. No, I mean
It's one of those.
PSAV.
PSAV. Yes.
Yeah, CRVA, and then
Yes.
PSAV is there.
Yes.
So he said, hey, I would love to talk with you about it. I said, okay, great. Do you have a card? I said, well, I don't have a card on me, but just call and tell them that you want to talk to me. Okay, fine. So I called 3 or 4 times. Could not get through to the guy at all.
Nothing.
So nothing ever happened.
Right, right. Now I think now you're talking about private entities like Bank of America. My experience, what I was talking about in terms of your initial question was about like the city, that kind of thing.
We could talk about
past that-
government too.
Well, I've been there and done that.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I guess what I've said on the surface, they put out some things like that.
Right.
I think I've had 1 or 2 actual contract, and very small. I'm
Right.
talking about like $1,000. You know, like nothing.
And that's with the county or city or whatever?
That was with the county.
Right.
At the time, back when they were doing their whole small business initiative,
Yeah.
and I was doing small business stuff.
Right,
I was
right.
doing video for small business, that kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
said, here's a perfect marriage. So they brought me in to actually, they were started to promote their small business website.
Sure.
I came in and did some promotional stuff for them and covered some of their events and gave it to them, you know, that
Right.
kind of thing. Gave it to them, trying to generate
hear
some
you.
business.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's frustrating, man. I've got a C-suite experience. You know, never been on the 58th floor.
Yeah.
Of Bank of America.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, some tall timber up here, boy.
Yeah, I've gone.
But I got up there,
twice. Yeah,
and then they brought me back.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden,
nothing.
died.
Yeah, and I don't quite understand that, but and you know you have to keep trying or doing it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it can be very, very rough. And let me just back up a little bit. We were talking about failures,
Mm-hmm.
and failures come in these. For me, they come in spurts. You know,
Right.
you could be going along great
Right.
for a while, then all
Yep.
of a sudden
Yep.
you slam into a brick wall.
Yep.
That brick wall could be there for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It could be there for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months.
Right.
You just don't know. So,
Right.
and it's one of those things where it doesn't matter what you do, you can't seem to get out of that rut.
Right. Yeah. You just get stuck.
Right.
Right.
Even this program that we're doing right now I had been thinking about it for quite some time, and it just hit me recently. I had the gear.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wait a minute, wait. Why am I not doing that?
Right. Right.
So I knew I just had to call in some people like yourself,
right,
and say, hey man, I just need for you to be on the show.
Sure.
But I wanted to at least have a program where people could talk about, in this particular case, entrepreneurship and the ins and outs of it. But we're also going to be talking about lots of other things too,
Sure,
like politics and why certain things going on, and people who believe that Charlotte is a great city. It's a nice city. It's not a
Right.
city. It's
Yeah.
a big town, if you ask me.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're going to be opening those things up.
Sure.
Really to a number of different things. But again,
Right.
back to failure, had I not failed or gone into a slump or whatever you want to call it, I wouldn't
Right.
be doing this right now.
Right, right.
So
and
hopefully this will grow.
I think that's as much a mental mindset. You know, you just have to say, okay, I've been kicked in the teeth, but I still got a few teeth left.
Right.
I still got a few left,
That's
you know,
true.
and there's still something out there to bite on.
Yeah.
And you know what I've tried to do, rebounding from failure, is to, like, failure to me is not having an idea bought into enough. At least in my most recent experience, is having what I think is a great idea, and then it just kind of dies on the vine.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've tried to do is take that idea and vet it more,
Mm-hmm.
have more eyeballs on it, have more, you know, have a diverse, you know, set of eyeballs look at what this is and help me think it through a little bit better.
Right.
You know, have more attention paid to it, because, you know, one thing I've always heard is you rarely succeed in business if you're not working with somebody who's smarter than you.
Yeah, true.
So
That's
I
true.
think I have, you know, but I'm so close to it sometimes. I need somebody over here
Right.
who I trust
Yeah.
to give me, and I don't need as much the pat on the back and, you know, a lollipop, you know, and a hug.
Right.
I need somebody to look me in the eye and say, you know what, this is bullshit.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I
Totally agree.
That's what I need. I
Yep.
need somebody who say, you know what, Jack, you did, you know, yes, no, maybe so, definitely no.
Right.
You know, and that's how I try to rebound from failure. It's not to say, oh, what was me? I can trip
Right.
over my lips all day.
Right.
And like you say, you get stuck.
Yep.
Well, why are you stuck? Are you stuck because and the fact that sometimes what your idea just stinks.
Sometimes it does. That's exactly right. Sometimes it does.
It's something you just had to come to that realization that, you know what, this thing, it maybe just is, and that's why you vet it. You know, have different, you know, if because all of them can't be lies. If they all say it's pretty good, but if they say it's pretty good, and then, you know, you might be on to something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And even when I sit across from people, the and but thing.
Sure.
It's funny. So many times I've sat in front of people and this is good, this is good, this is good. They like the idea, but well, it's not that, it's not really the time of year, or, you missed the budget cycle, all this sort of stuff. Our money is already allocated, come back around, next March when we start planning for the fiscal year and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
But when you have this sounds good, and now you're working with something, because at that point, then they're buying into it, because now their wheels are spinning as to, okay, how can we make this work for us? Mm-hmm. As opposed to why this can't work for us now or ever. Yeah. So I'm looking for those ands. Mm-hmm. When I get an and, then I know at least I've got, there might be a path. Right. And then, for for entrepreneurs who might be listening, my trick, I don't want to call it a trick, but let them talk.
Right. Well, that's important, but yeah.
Let them buy, because once they buy into it, and if it leads to a deal, I don't care whose idea it is. Right. Because if there's a paycheck working at the end, I don't need to have credit. I'm not going to put a neon sign saying this is my idea. Right. If there's a check at the end, it can be your idea.
Oh, sure.
I don't really care.
All day long.
Wow. Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever run into a situation where somebody, probably a corporate entity of some kind, or some bigger than Rutherford Media. Right. You have gone, pitched an idea, they like it, they say we'll get back to you, and before you know it, they've taken that idea and done it themselves. You ever run into that?
That's why I'm pausing. Short answer is yeah.
And that's the other thing the entrepreneurs have to look out for.
It's and you have to pitch ideas.
You have to, otherwise, how do you get in?
Right, and but that has happened probably less than maybe twice. Maybe. Okay. But and it can really get under your skin, man. It's like they took my freaking idea, and they let somebody else do it, or whatever the case. And I've never understood it. It just bugged me. But after a while, you just have to.
But they're ruthless, though, man. Some folks, they're just ruthless. They're like, wow, this is pretty good. And the thing is, and I've had this happen to me, and I can't name the entity because I just can't name the entity. Sure. But pitched them this great idea. I mean, I was all the way at the top. Right. Pitched this idea. They're sitting there. I'm like, I can see the wheels spinning in their head. Yeah. This is great. This is great. This is great. So I'm like, I'm straightening up, got my tie on. Right. I'm like, okay. They say, you know what? Let us kick this around and get back to you. About a month later, come to find out, they hired somebody to come in and do my idea. Yep. And and of course they for what they hired them for was less than what it would have cost if they had.
Well, I've seen it both ways. I've seen it where they hire somebody, they paid that person or that company more. Mm. I'm
like, I haven't seen that.
Well, I'm like, what? Right. I've had, this is no joke.
To do the same job.
Do the same job. I've been in situations with, in this case, it was B of A. I don't mind calling them out. Right. I mean, anyway, where they actually, I sent them a quote, and it said, "You're not charging enough, so we're going to go with somebody else." I said, "What?" I said, "Hold on for a second."
If it's apples to apples, in terms of what your proposal, I mean,
my offer was
your offer of content or business, what it actually was the same as who it is.
Yeah. Wow. So I said, stop. Before I said, have you committed to the other company? They said, no. I said, then let me double this. And they said, okay, fine. Now, I don't know what that was about. Right. You know what I mean? I don't understand it. It is what it is. But as soon as I doubled it, they were okay with it. Wow. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, sure. Whatever works for you works for me too.
There's some internal boogie woogie on that one. Maybe they had a market.
Maybe they had to justify the amount of money. Yeah. It had to be over a certain amount. I don't know. Right. But again, it was kind of weird. But the point is, again, being in business for yourself, man, especially in the broadcast world, if you will, it is cutthroat. Yeah. But you could offer something, for instance, at $1,000. Somebody else comes in right behind you and offers it for $300. Right. It's like,
Yeah.
What is that?
And and what that does is damage it for all of us.
It does.
And I run into that because, again, back to my original point, some money is better than no money. But when, don't dumb down your price
Right.
or your services.
Right.
Now, one approach I've had to that point is, okay, folks have, especially with some of the folks who I deal with, because I deal with a lot of startups or foundations,
Right.
who don't have, a corporate entity is a much different ball
Sure.
game. But,
Yep.
some of these other, mom and pops, whatever, they've got X amount of money that they can kind of spend.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I say, all right, well, but a lot of times they've seen something of mine that perhaps they like. They say, okay, I want one of those.
Right.
Well, here's what one of those costs.
Right.
So, you can't drive a Mercedes if you got Volkswagen money.
No.
No. And that's what people don't seem to understand.
Yeah.
And they kind of think, well, it's video, you can just kind of do this and that. And, it doesn't take all that time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the stubborn ones, I make them come and sit next to me.
Right.
Now watch how long it takes just to do this 30 seconds to make it look like this. Or watch how long it takes. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh man, this is taking a while. I got to go.
Really?
I'm like, now you see.
Right.
Yeah, you can now. Yes, you can go, but now you see
Yeah.
how long it
can
takes.
be very time consuming.
I always tell people, quality takes detail, detail takes time.
Yes.
And that's just,
Yep.
you want somebody to build your house quick? Well, you're going to get it built,
yeah.
and you're going to pay for it at the end.
Yeah, boy, you're gonna pay for that. Ain't no question about that, Jack. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
The God, what was I going? I had a question and then I lost it that quick. How long have you been in business?
8 years.
8. Oh, wow.
8 years. Yeah,
Seems
yeah.
longer to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it feels longer to me. 8 years on my own. Yeah,
Right,
8
right,
years
right.
as my own, media entrepreneur.
Sure. How do you see, and this is kind of off the beaten track here, but how do you see the growth of Charlotte?
I'm a native Charlottean, born and raised West Side, and the growth has been. I'll put it like this: I came back home in 2005. I was in Philadelphia, big, fourth market for television.
Sure.
I was working for the ABC affiliate up there, and it's funny. Every time I would come home to visit my mom, or just come home for whatever, I'd always ride around town because it's like, wait a minute, that's gone.
Right.
That's gone. Or this
Yeah.
highway is here. This,
Yeah.
there was no Ballantine
Right.
back in the day.
Yeah.
I can remember when the South Park used to be like a destination.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was.
we would, it'd almost like pack a lunch because we'd go drive 20 minutes to South Park.
Exactly.
Now South Park is damn near in the middle of the whole circumference
Exactly.
of
Uptown Charlotte.
of just Charlotte in general, because
sure.
because the city limits have gone out
That's
so
true.
far. I mean, the old Lance building on South Boulevard,
Yeah.
that literally was the edge of town.
Right.
And now, it's so much, as I said, there was no Valentine. So I literally would ride around. So in terms of its physical growth, I can, it was all going to happen at some point.
Right.
Charlotte was always 10 years behind Atlanta. Atlanta was always like the thing.
Right.
So for us back in the day, when we really wanted to, there were no nightclubs. There was no
Right.
place to go. So if you wanted to go to club, and you had to go to Atlanta.
Go to Atlanta. That's right. That's
because
true.
there was no liquor by the drink.
Right.
They roll up the streets at 5 o'clock.
Man, you're really taking it back.
I mean,
Yeah,
you could
but
shoot.
You're right though.
You could literally shoot a cannon down the street at 5:01 and not hit a soul. Back in the day,
Right.
I think in terms of its mentality, Charlotte sees itself as it's always up and coming, up and coming,
Right,
up
right.
and coming.
Yeah.
Well, at some point, you just are what you are.
When are you going to arrive? When are you going to be
When,
here?
when are you going to get to that destination?
Yeah.
When is the up and coming over with? And I'm there now.
Yeah.
And I think Charlotte kind of has some kind of identity. I don't want to call it crisis, but it just, if somebody were to ask you, well, what is Charlotte? There's no definitive sort of, it's not a blue collar town.
Right.
It's banking. It used to be trucking.
Yeah.
But you can't. They don't need. It's not a tobacco hub.
No.
I mean, it's a banking hub.
Yeah.
But beyond that, what do you really? What are the bones?
Is Charlotte still the second largest financial district?
I think it
Second
is.
largest,
I
yeah.
think next to New York, and
Yeah.
I think San Francisco's got some play in there too.
Right, right.
So out there in California, but Charlotte still doesn't have what I would call a true. It's a nice place.
Sure.
great, I mean,
All day long.
it's not terribly expensive to
Right.
live here. You can find reasonable, housing, and the schools are,
Funny you say that.
well, that's getting to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess when I compare it to, let's say I lived in Philadelphia for 23 years.
Right.
So when I compare it to places like DC, Baltimore, Philly,
Mm-hmm.
kind of that northern urban jungle type stuff,
Yep.
Charlotte is still reasonable.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that
No, I get
sense.
that. I get
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
I think Charlotte has priced itself out of, or priced workers, if you will, out of Charlotte.
Okay. Okay.
Channel 9, I think, had a big special on the housing dilemma in
Well,
Charlotte.
yeah, there is. Yeah, yeah.
And, you can't, I think people are having to move outside of Charlotte proper
Right.
and find housing that's affordable. And I do think some of the outlying towns could take advantage of that if they would. I don't know what like Concord or even Gastonia is
Sure.
doing to,
Right.
or Belmont is even doing to take advantage of that. But Charlotte's got that problem. Charlotte is looking for people with money to come into downtown and pay that $1,000 to $2,000 a month rent
It's
on those
for
places.
700 square foot,
Right.
one bedroom, one bath,
There you
half
go.
a bath,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, now that part of it to me is unbelievable.
Right.
And the thing is, they're not going to charge it unless they think they can get it.
Exactly.
So that's why that's why you see all those cranes downtown.
Right.
They're building all those
All the condos.
all the condos and stuff. I'm like, man, who's going to live in all these places?
Yeah.
But I'm like, they're not building them to be empty.
No. No.
So they must know there's a demand.
Yeah.
The
market survey
and there's
says
a
that it's here.
supply and demand for that.
Exactly.
So and yes, I mean, and I live in a community where a lot of the houses are being flipped. In the older Charlotte community, I live right off of right near the waterworks on Beatties Ford Road.
I know where you are.
Yeah, McCrory Heights.
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
right, tucked away,
Yep.
kind of in the back. But now the houses in there, which are all like the one-story ranches,
Mm-hmm.
very few two-story houses, but folks are coming in, and let's face it, the white folk are moving in.
Sure.
And
Yep.
they're buying them, or they're buying them and flipping them, or they're buying them, tearing them down, and adding on to it, like the area around Johnson C. Smith,
Right.
Wesley Heights.
Yep.
Those houses, they buy them, flip them, add on to them. They buy them for 85 and sell them for $4.85.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, true.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's true.
unbelievable because of the view, the proximity to 85, 77. I mean, there's not a better location.
No.
And that's old Charlotte. A lot of it old
It
black
is,
Charlotte.
yeah.
And what's a homeowner to do? It's like, man, they're gonna give me how much?
I know. Yeah, it's really crazy.
And you want to hold on to it. You want to preserve the neighborhood and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody's sitting here willing to write you a check, for 3 or 4 times what you paid for your
the
house.
value of the home. Yeah.
Right. I can't blame them.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
part of what's going on in Charlotte.
As
right
much
now.
as you want to be proactive in trying to maintain the community, if your finances are lacking, and then somebody's going to offer you $200,000, whatever the amount is,
right.
it's like, oh God,
Yeah.
man, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Right.
I gotta go, and then I'll go find some place and find something and pocket,
And they can do that.
and they can do that.
Yeah, they could almost probably pay cash for something.
Pay cash for
else.
something and still have something left over.
Exactly.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy. Let me ask you a question. Let's get back on the entrepreneur thing.
Yeah.
Do folks ask you to devalue?
I was going to ask you that too.
Oh, okay.
But go ahead. What's the question?
What frustrates me sometimes is, and I'm gonna say this, and it might not be politically correct, but
Yeah.
some of our people,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean, think because they're our people or
Right.
we're part of them, that they're supposed to get a break.
Yep.
I mean, the name of my thing is Brayboy Communications. It's not Hookup Productions.
Right.
Come
I know, Jack.
on, bro. Can you give me?
Right.
I'm bootstrapping. I'm like, well, what do you think I'm
Yeah.
I'm doing?
You see my boots?
You see my boots? They untied too.
Yeah.
So why do you think that I'm supposed to give you a break just because you black?
Well, the bad thing about it is, but to answer your question, yes, I have been approached with those types of things probably ever since I've owned the business.
Yeah.
And I hate it to my core because they're trying to really devalue your business.
Right.
Listen, I don't mind a discount here and there.
Absolutely.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
But let me decide that.
It's very few times when I submit something, and I mean very few times, but I submit it and somebody says, okay, fine, perfect. Everyone,
right, right,
most of the time I
right.
have to say, okay, how much, where do I need to be for this?
Right.
You don't get me wrong. If it's way off, say, look, I
Right.
can't do that.
Can't do that. Right.
There's
Can't do
many
that.
times I'll walk
Yeah,
away.
sure.
But I don't know why we do that. I don't know if this, I don't know why, Jack.
Well,
I hate it.
I mean, I've had folks say, hey, man, if you do this for me, I'll introduce you to so forth and
That
so on.
means
I'll introduce-
absolutely nothing.
I'm like, there's no guarantee.
No.
And you know what? And if we're just in this kind of together, if I know somebody, Steve, and if I can't do it, or if I know somebody who
You've sent
could
people
use
to
it,
me before.
yeah, it's
Yep.
like I can't do this,
Right.
or hey, I know just the person. I would just hand you off for
Right.
free. I'm not
Exactly.
asking you for a kickback
No,
or,
no,
or
I get
asking
it.
you or to do it as a barter.
I know.
I'm gonna
I know.
introduce you to so and so and so on if you do
Yep.
this for me.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no guarantee that person's gonna do business with me.
It is very frustrating, man.
Oh my goodness.
Very frustrating.
I'm
So
like, why do and I like to your point, I would do stuff for a discount, and I have a couple of pet, foundations of which I'm either on the board
Sure.
or whatever,
Yeah.
who that's part of it. So instead of writing a check,
Mm-hmm.
I do real good video content, which
Sure.
they
No,
would pay thousands, which if
Yeah.
I were to charge you, this is thousands of dollars
Sure.
worth of business, but I'll give that to you.
Absolutely.
And that's part of my give back.
Yep.
For certain foundations, I will discount. I have my nonprofit foundation
Right.
hourly rate. I'll
Exactly.
do that as
Yep.
opposed to a corporate entity that that I'm not going to discount
yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
But don't come in the door looking at me like, I'm here to devalue you. I'm going to ask you to give this to me for next to nothing.
Right. It's happened to me a lot, and it's even happened to me when I'm trying to get a project with a major corporation. The person in that seat looks like us, and they'll say, "Well, listen, can we get get the hookup?"
Right.
I'm like, "You're not cutting the check.
Right.
You work for
Whoever,
whatever
right.
huge corporation. Why
Right.
do I have to give a discount at all?"
Right.
Excuse me. So yeah, it's kind of across the board, man. It's up and down across the board. I don't understand it, and I can almost guarantee you that those white companies don't get asked that very often at
No.
all.
And
Yeah.
I guess that's my bigger point here.
Yeah.
It's like you don't go in there asking or
No.
or hoping that they're going to give you. Now, through negotiation, if you come to a reasonable price, fair negotiation is fine.
Sure.
On a number, on
Yeah.
whatever something's going to cost. That's fine.
Right.
And and I don't blame people for trying to get as much as they can for as little as they can. I get it. That's
Right.
part of what
Sure.
capitalism. That's
Yeah.
part of the deal.
Exactly.
But don't, go in there with the mindset that because of who we are, our linkage, racially
Yeah.
means that, dude's going to cut me a break because he's a brother.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not going to cut you a break just because of that. There may be other reasons, but it's not going to be based on that.
And I don't blame you. I've lost several clients.
Yeah,
because
I've
of
had
that.
to just say no.
Yeah, I don't get it, and it hasn't happened recently.
Yeah, I haven't had it done recently either.
But it does happen. There is this devaluation of
Right.
of our black companies.
Right. And especially if you're providing a service
Right.
that matches up, if you're charging a fair market rate,
Right.
and you're providing a service that reaches a certain bar,
Mm-hmm.
there is no reason to be asked to devalue
No.
your services.
Nope.
And for any entrepreneur that's out there, particularly if you're providing a service,
Mm-hmm.
a product, okay, you sell it for whatever you're going to sell it.
Right.
But a service is a different
It
animal,
is.
a
It
much
is.
different animal.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that as minority entrepreneurs, we should not feel like we should be put under the gun to devalue our services if they are comparable to anything else that's out there.
I agree, and I think it's been years now, but I used to get really upset about it. it doesn't bother me anymore. I'll just tell them, look, here's the price. If you don't want it, then go to somebody else.
Fine, right.
But it's kind of an, I don't want to say it's inherent, but it's an issue that we've always
It is an
had to
issue,
do,
right, right.
you
I was
know.
just curious. I was like, I know this is probably not just me.
No, no,
It's not just me.
no, not
know?
at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. I think the other thing too that bugs me too is when you go to an event, and we have a lot of events in
Sure.
Charlotte, you will hardly, no, I'll say you'll never see a minority-owned or black-owned AV company
No,
doing the work.
I haven't. And again, because a lot of the stuff I do, I'm handing off to
Right.
them to play, to display at those
Exactly.
big events. That's
Yep.
where a lot of my business is actually.
Mm-hmm.
And not once have I walked in there and seen Steve Rutherford, except for Johnson C. Smith.
Right.
That's the only entity where I've actually handed something of mine to
Exactly.
you to play. All
It would
of
be
them are the
different,
same.
Jack, I think, if we had only done minor events.
You've done what? DNC? I mean, you've done all kinds of.
Yeah, DNC, Oprah, all that stuff.
yeah.
But I mean, you produce stuff that is on the same level. I mean,
Yeah.
you produce it, you hand it off,
Right.
and they play it, and everybody's good to go.
Right.
But why we don't get some of the larger? The thing of it is, for me, it's always like I see the glass ceiling,
Right.
and I can't break through it.
Right.
Don't quite get that.
Right.
Oh well,
Yep. Very interesting.
Jack, I think that's it, man.
Hey, I enjoyed it. We could sit here all day.
I know.
Kibbling bits,
And the thing of it is, this is probably not your last time here. We're going to be talking about other things later.
Hey, you give me an idea. Like maybe I can start another one, and you come see me, and we
Well-
can do this. Because I'm all. Folks need to hear stuff that's unfiltered,
Right.
and to really have an opportunity to get into the minds of folks who kind of been around for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, who've been around, seen a few things,
Mm-hmm.
and you also hope that at some point people can glean some kind of insight. Like to your point about entrepreneurs just getting started and everything.
Right.
I think that there's no better lesson that you can learn than getting it from somebody who's kind of been there and done that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know that for me, that was important for me.
Well, and I don't want to carry this on too much
Right.
longer, but again, I know when I was starting out, I could never get anyone to mentor me.
Yeah.
They either thought I was the competition
Right,
or
right,
something.
right.
I'm like, dude, I just want your help. Could you
Yeah.
be a mentor to me?
Right.
Okay, I'll let you know. Never hear back from
Yeah,
them.
that's a shame.
So-
That's a shame. I'm willing to talk to anybody anytime.
Exactly.
You
Right.
know?
Same here.
And God bless you. If you turn out better than me, okay. So what?
That's on you.
Yeah, that's on
Right.
you, and it's also on me. Maybe I might be the problem in that scenario. If you wind up being better than me after what I've told you,
Right.
then there's a Jack problem. That problem ain't with you. That problem's with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's all good, man. But I enjoyed this. This is great.
Jack,
Let's do it
thank
again,
you,
bro.
brother. Appreciate
My
you,
pleasure,
man.
indeed. Man.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, folks. We're gonna kind of get off the air now.
All right.
I hope.
Let's do it again.